Time can be a funny thing. It can feel abrasive, hard to keep grasp of, or it just feels like there's never enough of it. Or in the chance that we do have a lot of free time, we can feel like we get in the way of ourselves and really utilizing that time. Or if you look around life, like if you're in college like me, or if you ever had a job, it can be hard to keep track of time or feel like you have enough time to get the things that you want to get done while keeping a social life. And when having a social life, it can be really difficult managing your time and really feel like you're getting to spend time with everyone you want to spend time with, whether it's friends, families, or loved one, anything. And in the world we live in, well, we're always looking at clocks. Clocks are everywhere. There are our tablets, our laptops, our phones, our TVs, they're anywhere in the city, and our cars even. And in the hustle and bustle of modern life, with the internet and everything, it can feel very overwhelming. And when you're trying to get done with the tasks and responsibilities you need to get done with, it can feel like there's a timer going off. Hell, even wake up to alarm clocks every day. It's always annoying. But if there's one character that I think exemplifies the struggle of trying to manage your time under heavy circumstances, it would be none other than Ultraman, and his many iterations of the many different versions of Ultraman across all continuities. And that's why today at Tiger Drop Films, after my little spiel about the pressure of managing time in your life, well, I think that really applies to Ultraman and his iconic color timer. Join me today as I analyze the iconic color timer in my signature commentary style, as we get into the bottom of what makes the color timer such an incredible piece of Ultraman storytelling. While the first color timer with the original Ultraman may have been created just to ensure that they don't go over budget when filming the action scenes between Ultraman and his many foes, I still think that it's a worthy addition to what makes Ultraman, well, Ultraman. And throughout his many iterations, the color timer has gone through many different forms, even colors, and sound effects. But when you hear that signature beeping noise as Ultraman's power is depleting due to him being on Earth or other factors, it really helps escalate the fights. And it really feels like that Ultraman needs to get the job done. He needs to save the day, and he's got to do it fast. Sure, it may be intense and it may not be everyone's cup of tea depending on your style, but I still think that the color timer is an intuitive way to illustrate the intensity of the fights going on, and what makes Ultraman as a hero needing to be the guy that has to save the day. Just take a look at this scene from Ultraman Orb Origin, when Gaia becomes Ultraman Orb for the first time, and just look at how the fight goes. Yeah, that was definitely his first day on the job, but I thought it was a really great way of illustrating that being Ultraman isn't easy, and getting a handle on the power certainly isn't, as well as forming a bond if you're Ultraman. And seeing an Ultraman just flat out fall on his back during his first get around and not even lasting a minute in the fight, it was pretty telling of the power of Ultraman and the color timer and what it indicates. And even recently in Ultraman Arc, there was an incredible two-parter where it shows that Arc, aka Rutian, if he talks to his human host Yuma for too long within their own little dimension, it will therefore drain his power in reality whenever he actually becomes Ultraman Arc. And we see that here. I'll show you. We even have an alien villain taunting Ultraman as he loses power, as he therefore loses the fight against the big monster Zatami. It's really interesting, and I like that throughout the years, as we saw here in Orb and Arc, shows that were made at least over a decade apart almost, we get to see how Ultraman's color timer can be used in different ways as a storytelling device. And the really cool thing that I think ties into ourselves as people trying to manage time is how sometimes it's an internal battle. As there are times when Ultraman is losing a fight against a horrible foe. However, if his human host really keeps trying and their bond is so strong, they can quite literally overcome time and the constraints of the color timer and keep pushing on. Because sometimes the color timer may not just be bound to, say, 3 minutes as it is with most Ultramen. No, it can mean other things. Sometimes it can just be a measure of willpower. And if an Ultraman is losing a fight and he's not really feeling sure of himself, it can be diminishing, hence the change from blue to a beeping red. And there's a lot of times throughout the franchise where I love it that the Ultraman and the host are truly in. They're both the same, they know each other, which means that even if the color timer is going down as they're getting physically weaker or losing power, they can still muster the strength to get up and finish the fight and save the day. I think that using the color timer with that insight is a beautiful way to show that on a human level, even if we're facing horrible odds, we could still get up and we could still finish strong. Whatever that may be to you, whether it's a project you're trying to get done, some family matter you're trying to get through, or any other stress to life, that's how I like to interpret the color timer. And seeing it in a tokusatsu battle between Ultraman and Monster is just a great way to see it with imagination. The color timer can also show the severity of a situation that Ultraman can't just solve by punching, as we see here with Ultraman Taro, as Taro realizes that after he just killed the queen tortoise kaiju, he just left a baby tortoise without its mother, and soon the father, King Tortoise, comes to the battle as well as they start attacking Taro, but he just won't fight back. He realizes what he's done, and I really like this. It shows that the Ultras have their own morality, and their own identity, of course. And I think this is a great way of showing that sometimes the Ultras have to adapt in the battle and use their own creativity, their own craftiness to make a solution. And here we see that Taro realizing that he did something not so noble and that the humans are yelling at him as well. It's really an intense situation. There's these multiple kaiju going on, there's a baby one, and what is Taro gonna do? Well, he decides to pick up the body of the queen tortoise and fly into space with her, and while at the same time contacting Ultra 7, who Ultra 7 comes down, helps pick out the now grown-up baby tortoise, and carries it into space as the king tortoise follows. I thought this was a clever way of resolving the situation in some way. He didn't really have to kill them, instead he just had to take them to another planet. And while sure, Taro still killed one of them, and he needed the help of Ultra 7, because Ultra 7 always likes to show up and everything, it was still a cool way to resolve the conflict. It may have been messy since there was still a lot of destruction, but these are giant monsters we're talking about. There still had to be some kind of solution. And Ultraman Taro as a TV show is such an amazing show that really highlights all the different ways that a problem can be solved with imagination and sometimes just listening to the kids that are experiencing these events. And Taro is just a really fun way to experience a new side of Ultraman. So as we saw in this episode, Ultra 7 stepped in to help, and it's always cool when another Ultra comes to help, but sometimes they're not always the most friendly, which brings me to Ultraman Gaia, where there's an episode where Agul steps in to help Gaia after his color timer is going off, because the threat of this episode was pretty eerie. It was a kaiju that was using a whole town of people as marionettes, or puppets, and they're kind of zombie-like in a way, like they're in a trance. It's pretty eerie, and it shows the length that some kaiju will go just to try to win over humanity and defeat them. It's frightening. And I really like how we got to see Gaia, of course, go into the fight. He's doing well at first, but then he starts to kind of falter, as he's still trying to become Gaia, or Gamu is still new to being Ultraman, so Gamu isn't really as tuned into his powers as Fujimiya is with Agul. As the fight goes on, Agul steps in and he ultimately helps defeat the monster, but then he just leaves. And we're left with Gaia standing there as the color timer is beeping red against the night sky, and he just depowers back to Gamu in the middle of the town. It's really an interesting fight as the show is developing. We get to see two Ultras not on the same page as we saw earlier with Taro and Ultra 7. However, there's still a story there, and I like that, as we even saw with Ultraman Orb earlier in the video. When an Ultra is still starting out, they're not going to have the best skill set, the best knowledge and understanding of their own powers, and it's going to take a lot of work to really get a hold of that color timer, that indicator, but it still really works here. And keep in mind that even if the color timer goes out on an Ultraman and he's defeated, there's still ways to bring him back, whether it's the willpower and dreams and cheers of the people, or other factors such as him realizing his own individual power, or just the sheer bravado of getting back to finish the fight Rocky style. There's a lot of ways that the color timer can be overcome, or undone, so to speak. Another detail I like of the color timer is that in addition to its flashing and its beeping when it turns red, it can also signify the heartbeat of the hero, as the heart's beating faster, as it may use all of its power, or it's just really trying to finish the fight. And if you ever played Dead Rising, then I feel like that is a game that is also about going against the clock, whether it's Dead Rising 1 or Off the Record, my two favorites. The idea of having to fight against the clock and save the day is just really fascinating, and it really just, keeps your body ready to finish the fight. And I think that kind of applies here with Ultraman. In Dead Rising you had Frank West with his watch trying to go against the clock and finish the case, get to the truth. And here with any of the Ultras, you have a guy just trying to finish his fight in his required time limit, and it just really makes the conflict more interesting, for me at least. Because Ultraman has to get creative in how they finish out the foe. Sometimes they can't just use their own Spacium Ray, sometimes they have to use another method. Including here, in the original Ultraman, the one that started it all, where towards the end of the show we get to see Ultraman fight Geronimon. And what I really like here with this arc, as I'm sure other YouTubers have talked about, is that it shows that humanity can still fend for themselves. But in this particular fight, we get some brilliant imagery of showing Ultraman using the Spacium Ray against a bunch of feathers and doing a whole 360 shot, and even drops down to tear off the feathers off of Geronimon. What really stands out to me in this fight is that this is the original color timer. He has to adhere to 3 minutes, but he really gets to use a bunch of abilities against Geronimon, even using Geronimon's own powers against him. And as the fight's coming to a close, Ultraman's color timer is going off. But it's clear that Ultraman could just finish off Geronimon right here. He won. He's holding him. However, he understands that Ide has been feeling down lately. Ide has been disenfranchised with the fight against monsters and the pursuit of scientific discovery. So, even though he could finish off Geronimon right here, Ultraman just holds him and he acknowledges Ide. And he allows Ide to take out his gun and finish off Geronimon. And you can just see from Ide's reaction that he's so happy, he really felt fulfilled. He did something for the team. And it wasn't just Ultraman flying in to save the day like he always does. I love this. Whenever Ultraman just nods as he acknowledges someone and allows them to help him, is great. It's like knowing that even if you can get something done, it can feel even better stepping back and doing it with others, especially people you care about and have a connection with. And I think that's what is the real highlight of this Geronimon episode, is Ultraman knowing that even if he could just do it himself, he understands that his teammates need it more than he does. And as the color timer, again, that color timer is going off in this very scene, he takes time to do something even better. The true right thing. And I like that a lot. It really brings Ultraman down to earth. There are a bunch of other examples from throughout this gigantic franchise that I could have talked about today to break down the color timer and its many different uses throughout the series, but I think that the examples I use today kind of show the variety of the color timer in of itself. And there's many others that you guys can let me know of in the comments. Your own experiences of Ultraman and your own favorite uses of the color timer. Like, I could have even talked about how in the first Netflix Ultraman, the one based off the manga, the color timer in that show had to be released as that Ultraman would use his full power, even though he would still depower after using it. So there's so many other examples of the color timer throughout the franchise. Heck, even Shin Ultraman went the original plan of not having a color timer, but as we saw in that movie, they still had to have it in some way, just not directly. As in that film, Shin Ultraman would still lose power after fighting for too long, so it makes it think that, yeah, the color timer is just an integral part to Ultraman's character, even if it doesn't, well, explicitly show up on his body. So, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a good minute since I've had an Ultraman video essay, but I've also talked about Godzilla a lot recently, in addition to my mini videos over the Like a Dragon or Yakuza series. Suffice to say, I think I'm running out of my color timer right now, so I'll wrap this video up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please check out my whole playlist of Ultraman essays, and stay tuned for more, because I got a lot more Ultraman coming. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Chawatch!